That's what's left over from a pigeon that most likely a Cooper's hawk had breakfast early this morning. The Cooper's hawks migrate through, and that's okay. That's their job. That's what they do. Piper. Piper is a prairie falcon, and Piper is yes from the wild. Piper it was out on the desert. Now prairie falcons nest out on the low cliffs, out on the mesas, in the vast open deserts, and they like a lot of room, and that's their normal territory. Now, what people need to realize is about 80% of all birds of prey do not survive the first year. And so, with the proper licenses and permits, a falconer can pull a young falcon from the wild, raise it up, train it, fly it for a season or two, and then reintroduce it back to the wild. Now that young falcon, instead of only having a 20% chance of survival, has more than a 90% chance of survival.
Good morning. Mm-hmm. Hi, good morning.
Now, the way I find them is I understand the different kinds of birds of prey and what their nesting requirements are. And so I will, every spring, go on a drive and I monitor the nesting sites around southern Utah. And when I get into an area where I think there may be, red-tailed hawks or goshawks or prairie falcons or golden eagles or horned owls or whatever, and I think this is appropriate habitat, then we start searching for the specific nest site, and we watch to see if we can spot the parents flying around. We listen very, very carefully because the chicks can be extremely vocal in the nest, and that's a good clue as well. And so it's just knowledge and practice that allows me to understand what their nesting requirements are and how to locate their nesting sites. Now, please understand, without the proper state and federal permits, it is a federal offense to disturb these birds in any way, shape, fashion, or form. And so you have to be fully qualified in order to do this, and that requires passing a written test. That requires a 2 year of apprenticeship under a general or master class falconer. That requires appropriate equipment to be inspected by your local fish and game. It's extremely complicated and time consuming. It's not just going out and taking an animal from the wild. You have to be fully qualified to be able to work with these animals. They're so smart, and it just takes a little bit of patience, and if you watch them carefully, you can see the little wheels turning in their brains on how they're figuring things out, and so once the bird steps on the glove for food, then the next day you have a jump a foot to the glove, and then you very gently move the distance further and further until they're about 10 feet.
There's my boy. Look around, face the right direction.
A good falconer returns more birds back to the wild than they take. And that's such a very important point that people need to realize is that because of falconry, the peregrine falcon is now off the endangered species list. The peregrine falcon in the late 1960s, there was only thought to be about 4 dozen pairs of anodon peregrines left in North America. Falconers brought all their peregrines together, created a breeding project called the Peregrine Fund, and they have raised more than 4,000 peregrine falcons and returned them back to the wild.
Such a sweetie. Okay. This is the last one. It's really far. Very, very far, sweetie. Can you make it?
And it's because falconers are individuals that have a passion for these animals, and they are willing to do whatever it takes, not only time and energy and volunteerism, but also whatever it takes financially to protect and preserve these animals for future generations.
That's my boy. What a good boy. You did perfect. Couldn't ask for a better boy. What a good baby. Now very, very soon, it's going to go from, this little 3 feet to literally flying across the yard, and then we start to get him out and let him fly free. So he's doing a great
Even though we do have them with us in captivity, and we use them for education, we use them for falconry, for hunting, falconers are tremendous stewards. The United Nations has declared falconry as a World Heritage Activity because falconry has been an intimate part of the human experience for 4,000 years.
And again, as you can see, safety is the most important thing. The Jessies swivel, clip to the glove before I put the leash in, and move him. And then again, once he's finished eating and he's pretty comfortable that everything is gone, then hooding's important. Yes, hooding's very, very important. And we want to make sure that we keep him into that routine. Even though I could just walk over a few feet and put him on his perch without hooding him, we need that routine. And so he needs to feel that the hood is a very big part of everyday life.
It's a really positive thing when it's done well, but like everything else, if you don't do it right, it is detrimental.
There's my pretty boy. You did good. Did you have a good breakfast? Such a baby. Such a good little boy. Okay. We'll let you sit out here and take a bath. Relax for a little bit. Yeah, that's my baby. What are you doing this morning? Being a good boy? You ready for the routine, kiddo? There's my boy. There's my Piper. What? Yes, you are. Good boy.
Yeah, there is a process, and the one thing I try to encourage, especially people starting out in falconry, is do not skip steps. The first thing that you want to do is acclimate the bird to you and its captive surroundings, so the bird is comfortable. The second thing that you want to do is give the bird, and this is extremely important, give the bird all that it wants to eat for about 2 weeks. And in that 2 week period of time, that's the time that you're acclimating the bird to human activities and to its environment. At the end of that 2 week period of time, when the bird has had all that it wants to eat, you put the bird on a scale and you weigh it and you write down what I call the base weight, which is its very heaviest it could possibly be, and then the bird's flying weight, where the bird will actually start flying to you because you have food and it's hungry, And that is the reason they come back. They don't come back because they like you. They come back because you have food and they're hungry. And that flying weight is somewhere around 10% of its fat weight. And so if you acquire a bird and you don't go through this process, you don't know what the fat weight is, so you don't know what the base weight is, and so it's very difficult to know at what weight the bird should be flying to you. And so if you skip that step, then you're fighting trying to understand the bird's weight, and it'll put you way behind. Once you have established the bird's base weight and the bird is comfortable and the bird is now starting very, very slowly to step to your glove for its food, and now all the food it gets comes from you, and so you want it to step to the glove, and the bird doesn't understand this, and it's something new, and it's something that has to be learned. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, and to me it's so enjoyable to watch the new young bird think and start to wonder, he's got the food, and how can I convince him to bring it to me and hand it to me?
You miss the glove every time, sweetie. There you go. That's my baby. Hey. What? What do you in evening training to, sweetie? I know you see that mouse over there. If you love what you do, then you don't retire because you can't imagine not doing it anymore. It gives your life purpose. It's fulfilling to you. Why do I rescue sick, injured, and orphaned wildlife? It's just what I do. And basically, my concept of retirement, and I tell people this all the time, is they drop me in a hole 6 foot deep and they throw dirt on my face. And so other than that, I will keep doing the things that I do. I will always try to do things that I think are beneficial and meaningful in my life and the life of others.
And these are extremely intelligent creatures, and I have so many times in my falconry career seen beginning falconers with their birds set the bird on a perch, walk 20 feet away, blow the whistle with food on the glove, and the bird just sits there. And so then they move to 15 feet away, blow the whistle with food on the glove, and the bird just sits there. Then they move 10 feet away and blow the whistle, and the bird just sits there. Then they move 5 feet away, and the bird just sits there until they get about 2 feet away. Then the bird will jump 2 feet to the glove, and the falcon or the hawk has just trained the falconer. And at about the 10-foot distance, that's when you start taking the bird out into the wilds, and start acclimating it to the wild activities, but still jumping the bird short distances to the glove.
One more time.
That's called mantling. And what that basically is any bird of prey in the wild versus birds of prey in captivity do the same thing. When they catch their food, they're extremely motivated, and Piper is far more high strung and high energy and nervous than what Belle is. And what they want to do is they want to hide the food they've caught from any other predators in the area.
Keep it good, sweetie.
And so they cover up the food with their wings, so that any hawk or eagles or falcons or owls or up in the sky won't see what they've caught. And that's an instinctive thing. Belle does that as well, not as much as Piper does, but Belle certainly does want to hide her food from any other predators. And even my golden eagle scout, and he's the apex predator, he's the lion in the sky, he will hide his food, for fear that another eagle might try to steal from him. And so it's a very natural process, and it's hardwired into the brain to hide the food. Piper is vocal because Piper is a prairie falcon. Um, this is one thing. If any of you get the opportunity to go out to the wild, and you're walking, through, the open deserts and the canyons and long cliff faces and those kinds of things, in the late spring, you'll hear that sound. That is the young falcons screaming to their parents to come feed me. When the young falcons are flying, they'll follow the parents around, and they will scream at the parents to go kill something. And they're just kind of belligerent little monsters. These are not pets. These are not animals that are really enjoyable personality-wise to work with. We love them. We love them to do what they do naturally. I love to have that experience. But there's an awful lot of birds of prey that are certainly not pleasant animals to handle. If you want a pleasant animal as a pet, um, go get a dog like Cody. They make much better pets. The birds of prey should never ever be considered pets. You're about ready to go out to the field, aren't you?